I'm Allie Zendrian, founder of AtoZ Communications, and this is the Brand Stories podcast. This is where we discuss everything related to branding, marketing, public relations, and communications in general. As we end the new year, and I hope everyone's enjoying their holiday season, we feature Abby Morton, who I met through Elements and is now starting a new branch of her career. We'll discuss what that's like and how she's conceiving her branding and marketing as she heads into this new part of her life. Very excited to have you on the podcast today. We've gotten to know each other across different career paths that we've taken, and it's great to see what you're up to now.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on.
Good. Well, the first question that I ask everybody is, what's your favorite brand and why?
So I feel like this is a very generic answer, but I think I can back it up a little bit too. So I would say my favorite brand is Apple. I think that they've taken a very, even just the name Apple, right, concept and applied it in a very unique way in terms of technology. But I think the other reason why I love it and am drawn towards, I would even just say brands like that they're very minimalist, it's clean, it's simple. I would argue that I didn't really understand like the value of a good brand until I worked at Elements. I would say Elements really got well known because I think our brand set us apart from every other financial tool out there. And now, having been at Elements for 5 years and kind of starting my next chapter, which I'm sure we'll get into, as I look at all the tech and all the other things that are out there, I am like, oh my gosh, I really get it now. As I'm looking at, when I've been at Elements, I obviously wasn't looking at a ton of competitor stuff, but now I am. And it's amazing how much I think a brand really does set you apart. It really does. It gives like that foundation. It gives you just even good vibes and good feelings that I don't think that you necessarily like realize going into it. But when you know a good brand, you just know that it's good, right? It like leaves a feeling with you.
Absolutely. And you know what? I wouldn't blame you at all for that stance, because I feel like up until the last like year or two, a lot of people, especially financial advisors, were just kind of vaguely like, I serve whatever population. There was no cohesive brand. I know what my niche is, or I know what I don't do. And now I feel like within the last few years, there's really been this rush to like define what brands are and give people that kind of identity. So, I mean,
yeah, totally.
You're right there with it. So all good.
Well, it's interesting too, because I think there's this concept now of you yourself as a brand, right? Yeah. And I think in the world that we're in today of social media and posting and, you know, influencers and content creation and all of that, like creating your own unique brand, it seems like it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. More important, I guess, probably is the better way to describe that. I read some article the other day. They're talking about even CEOs and Fortune 500 leaders and companies, how they need to focus on their personal brand. And like, that is a big deal. And it's very eye-opening to me of think of every time I've ever thought about a brand, it's been in terms of a company, right? Mm-hmm. But now it's interesting to think about applying that same concept to us as individuals. And I don't know, like, what's your take on that? Do you see that as well? That like, that's becoming more important?
I think so. Because even when you were mentioning the CEO example, so when you think about it, unless you're going to be that CEO who just like, I'm going to ride this thing my whole career. Somehow I'm going to get lucky. Nobody's going to like vote me out or, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
At some point, you're going to have to shift somewhere else. And so for you to be so closely tied with that company's brand, like on the one hand, it's good that obviously then you're a Mr. or Mrs., you know, name the brand. But then as you transition, you know, is that necessarily helping you? Like, oh, it's not. So you really need to have defined yourself and say, within this brand, I am XYZ, but also the brand is, it's a lot.
Well, and I think it's hard too. I felt really pulled at Elements all the time. I knew I should build a brand. I knew that was important. I don't think I was the only face of Elements, but as a face of Elements, like I thought about that often. I thought, well, I'm part of the Elements brand. It's okay. I don't need my own thing. And honestly, it always fell to the bottom of my priority list. But you're right, when the day comes that it's like time to switch your jobs, your careers for whatever reason, right? Even if it's a personal decision, having that personal brand is key, right? So I remember listening to a podcast from Natalie Taylor several years ago, and she was talking about how she was always building her brand along the way. And she was always building an email email list for years and years and years. Even when she wasn't a financial advisor, she was building her own email list and she was working on it so that, and I don't know if she knew this in hindsight, but now when I recorded that, or when I listened to her on that podcast, fast forward 3 or 4 years later, then she opened her own firm. And I thought
Oh,
that was so interesting that she's like, honestly, it was an email that I sent to my email list and instantly had 30 clients. The numbers might be wrong. I totally don't quote me on that. But I thought that was so interesting that, 10 years ago, if not longer, Natalie Taylor was thinking about that and how important her own brand was and investing in that. And she just said it wasn't a newsletter she sent on any specific cadence. It was just something that when she thought she had something interesting to say or an interesting thought, that's when she would email her email list. And it really came back to help her tenfold when then she decided to start her own financial planning business. And so that's like an example of someone who did it really well. I definitely have not been that. I never created my own brand elements, but it's hard, I think, to find the time to do it. But I think everyone would say it's so well worth spending the time building your own brand.
yeah. Well, speaking to that, so what are you up to these days, and how are you thinking about your brand in the midst of all that?
Well, maybe we'll start with a quick backstory. For those of you who don't know who I am, I obviously have mentioned Elements a lot. That's actually how Allie and I know each other. Is we hired Allie as our PR firm at Elements, and we worked together for, I don't know, a year, maybe two together. Really got to know each other. Love Allie. She's amazing. Hire her if you need some PR. She did not pay me to say that, but Allie is so great. So yeah, did the Elements gig for a while. Prior to Elements, I was at an RIA working as a financial advisor and really enjoyed my time at the RIA, but was really excited about this tech startup Elements. So did that for 5 years. And I'm sure people have heard in the news, Elements has kind of gone through some financial turmoil recently. And long story short, got bought out again by our CEO and COO, a new buying team, which we're really excited about. But honestly, the chapter of my time there at Elements kind of came to an end. And as everything was happening with Elements, it was, a period of 4 to 5 months that we knew that we were going to be going through this big transition. I really had some time to sit back and evaluate, my life and my priorities and my family and what do I want. And I've always had the idea in the back of my mind to start my own financial planning firm. So that's where I'm at today. I've decided to start my own financial planning firm. I'm officially live and a fully registered advisor as of December 3rd. So that's exciting. We're recording this on December 17th. So super excited. My firm name is called Creator Money, and I'm going to work on serving content creators and influencers in the social media space. So talking about personal brand is right on for what my clients will be doing, what I will be doing. And it's a pretty big deal and something I've been researching a lot about and thinking a lot about over the past several months.
I love that. So that content creator influencer space, their financial planning needs are so different than everybody else's because there are royalties and all these different kind of deals that swap back and forth. So how did you decide that you wanted to serve this particular group of people?
A great question. I'm gonna be a little vulnerable here. I think other women can relate to this, but I definitely felt like my time at Dennis Advisors and working with these male business owners that as a female financial planner, like I often had to justify my value. I had to convince, or I felt like I had to convince my clients that I knew what I was talking about. And I don't know if it was because I was young. I don't know if it was fully because of that. I don't know if it was because I was a woman. I think at least 30. We're not talking a 20-year-old financial advisor. Prior to working as a financial advisor, I worked at Goldman Sachs for 5 years. I wasn't fresh out of college. Like I'd had some work and life experience for several years prior to that. So it wasn't like I was some 19-year-old, woman. Like I was older, but anyway, I constantly felt like I had to justify my value. And I kept thinking, if I go out on my own, I don't want that pressure on myself. And I think some of it was just my own personal insecurities. But in the back of my mind, I thought, if I do this, I want to work with women. I need to find a niche of people, of women who are making money that I can serve. And for a long time, it was actually traveling nurses. That's kind of what I was thinking for a really long time. And there's actually one other financial advisor that I could find serving traveling nurses. So I knew like there's someone else doing it that could be a viable option. Honestly, Allie, the content creator idea really came to me like June or July of this year. And ever since I landed on that idea, I was just trying to find women who own businesses and were making money and had some interesting financial planning needs. And
Mhm.
content creators literally hit every single point that we tell at Elements. What I always coached and told people to do, content creators hit every single one. You can buy, they have certain organizations that are out there to help them, that you
Mhm.
can go to events specifically for them, right? They have those unique challenges, they have jargon that you can learn and like teach and coach them out. It was just divine inspiration or something where it was just like, this felt so right. And ever since I chose that niche, it was like there was no stopping me in
Aw.
starting this business. Like, I honestly, I've had other job offers and other things come to me, and
Mhm.
it just, nothing was as interesting as doing this.
Good for you. I mean, the fact that, like you said, you had other job offers coming and this was still the thing that you're like, no, I was called to do this. That shows you that you're in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing, you know?
Yeah, I think it's about right. And Allie, you went through this very recently too. I think it's,
Yeah.
in the quiet moments, like just sitting and listening to yourself and like what is really speaking to you. I really was trying to make the decision for the right reason, not just like throwing a
Yeah.
dart at the wall. It's like again and again and again, I just kept getting called back. Like, I went one day to sit down and try to put a resume together to apply for another job, and I couldn't do it. I was just
Mhm.
like, literally could not think of what to write. It was just terrible. So yeah, it's just, I think listening to yourself and knowing what you want, right? I think is hard, and I don't know that many people are very in tune with that today. It's something I've been really working on over the past several years, of just trying to really listen to my own intuition, right? And where I want to go.
I'm glad that you're so in touch with yourself. I have said I hate writing cover letters. I just think that they're a gross, like, how do
Yeah.
you distill yourself into like 3 or 4 paragraphs while you're
Yeah.
also like stroking somebody else's ego and this and that and make it perfect? As much as I get
It's
paid to
true.
write, I just hate them. But I don't think that I ever put two and two together. But because you may not really want to work for somebody else, I think you want to work for yourself. And you're right that it is, for me anyway. It's personally very freeing to just, kids need me to like go pick them up from school. I'm just going. There's nobody that I have to tell. Like, I'm doing what I need to do, and then I will be back and I will do whatever it is that I'm supposed to do. So
Yeah. Yeah.
you are a very smart lady. You know that.
Oh, you're so sweet. You're so sweet. Well, do you feel like it was like that for you? I mean, you recently went through this journey as well. I'd be curious to hear how different or similar our experiences were of you deciding to go out on your own.
Yeah. So in all honesty, it wasn't necessarily a decision. It felt like just the thing that happened. But as I look back at it, it was exactly the right thing that needed to happen. I needed
Yeah.
that kick in the butt because I wouldn't have done it otherwise. I think it was probably me being in my personal and like life situation of single mom, young kids. It seemed like the wrong time and like the wrong thing to be doing. But at
Yeah.
the same time, it's like sort of exactly the right time. So I needed that kick in the butt. But developing the brand, like even the name of it, a former colleague who has since passed mentioned the name and was like, oh yeah, that would be a cute, it's a play on your name. And it's also,
Yeah.
it's funny how all these little things line up. And you're like, yeah, actually, like that exactly fits. I've always loved my two initials. Like, absolutely,
Yeah.
sure. Alpha to the Omega. There you go.
I love that. It's interesting you say that, because I've been thinking about this a lot. How I remember when I left Dentist Advisors and I went to Element, and I was like, what in the hell am I doing? Like, why would I go back to school, get my CFP? So left Goldman Sachs, decided I couldn't be a stay-at-home mom. So decided to go get my CFP. After I got my CFP, started working at Dentist Advisors, had worked so hard and only really been at Dentist Advisors for like 2-3 years. It wasn't that long of a period of time when this Elements opportunity came up. And I was just like, I'm insane for taking this. That likely means I'm not going to be a financial advisor, what I went to school to be and what I was so excited about doing. But I was actually working with a mentor at the time, and she said, Abby, your eyes light up when you talk about Elements. You were just not excited as much about this Dentist Advisors thing. So I think that's your answer. I think you know. And I'm glad she said that to me, because I can always go back to that and be like, that was my intuition yelling, go to Elements, go to Elements. So anyway, I ended up going and obviously having an amazing experience there. I learned more than I ever thought I could have learned. And now today, starting my next chapter of my own financial planning firm, I look back and I'm like, going to Elements was the best decision I ever made, because I learned how to be an advisor at Dentist Advisors, but at Elements I learned how to build a business and run a business. And I think a lot of financial advisors, either they know how to run a business before or they know how to be an advisor, but might not know how to marry the two. And today I'm coming into it. I'm 38 years old. I've been around the block. I've learned so many things. Now I'm just like so excited to take everything I've learned and to apply it. I have an amazing network from all my time at Elements. Had I just sat at Genesis Advisors, I could have learned how to run a business. I would have learned how to specifically run an RIA, but the network I would have had would have been much smaller than like what I was able to develop through Elements and all my time there. So it's just like, I love what you're saying, these little things along the way that now looking back, you're like, oh, that was all supposed to happen. It was supposed to turn out like this. And you never think that in life. You're always like, I'm crazy for doing this.
Yes. Well, my crazy for doing this is, I think that you know this about me. I went to graduate school for journalism. I was a reporter for a few years because I lived and died on, I'm going to be that like hometown news reporter and I'm going to, get that scoop. And then when you hit that moment of like, well, do I want to keep doing this or do I want to go do something else? You feel like, well, I'm how far in debt from student loans from doing this thing. And now you're not going to do it. That doesn't make any sense. But at the same time, it doesn't feel right anymore. So you got to move on and do the thing that does feel right.
Yeah, I agree. I think if I had to give advice to like my younger self or any younger people out there, it's like the pivots are okay and they're expected and they're wanted. And like, as long as you're like listening to yourself and being genuine about making the right decisions and making them for the right reasons, not because you think that's what someone else wants you to do, I think there's a path. Like, I mean, I'm religious. I believe in a higher being. Like, I believe that God, whatever you want to call him, he does have a path for us, and it's like following that path. And I think that's okay, right? I wish younger Abby knew that. I wish younger Abby was like more okay with taking those risks and being okay with the pivots and not, I would like berated myself and beat myself up for like, why am I doing this crazy thing? No, it's not crazy at all. So younger Abby didn't know that though.
You know what? There were so many things that as kids or as young adults, we had no idea about. So you got to give yourself grace in that.
Yes. We're all like that. The older you get, the less you know, but the more wise you become. It's great.
Yeah. How do you feel like you've gotten to this place of, and now I'm the business owner and I'm doing this?
Well, I don't know that I'm there yet. I mean, I love hearing your story actually about your name. I think some people are like that they're just like, this is my baby and it's always been in the back of my mind and now it's like coming to fruition. I think the idea of starting my own thing has been in the back of my mind, but I've never known like who I want to serve, what I want to call it. I've not known the name for very long at all. I mean, actually finding the name is like a crazy story. Probably need to get into it, but I definitely don't have it all figured out. I mean, I'm literally 15 days into officially being registered. I've been moving in this direction for 2 months. I have one client. Woohoo! Got one. I'm going to celebrate that. And so I think it's just, I've learned so much from just training advisors at Elements over the past several years and seeing all the different things that they've done, all the different tech that they've done. So really, I feel like I've been kind of taking and picking like, ooh, I like that. I like that. I like that. I like that. And now it's just trying to put it all together. It feels like there's not enough hours in the day to get all the things done that I want to get done. I'm sure you feel like that too. And yeah, I know it's going to be a grind for the next several years of just the first 3, right? Are the hardest years.
Oh, yeah.
So it'll be a grind, but like we're ready. We have the savings to do it. We will be okay if I don't make a ton of money year 1, which I likely won't, and that will be okay. So I think maybe to add to your question as well, though, I've really thought a lot about like building this community because I am working with a specific niche and really going hard into the content creators realm. Some might call me absolutely crazy for doing that, but I just kind of feel like I don't know another way to go about it. Like I want to speak uniquely to someone. And so I've really liked this idea and concept of if I'm working with all content creators, how cool would it be if I could like bring them together and help them help each other for a myriad of different reasons. And I've actually always loved event planning. I almost started an event planning company instead of doing this. Like that's how much I like it. I actually had some pretty creative ideas of how to do that. Would never do wedding planning though. I get asked that question a lot. I don't want to deal with brides, but maybe I could do some fun events as well as, part of it. And so I don't know, like definitely don't have it figured out, but have lots of ideas that we'll see how they kind of pan out.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, this is the time to throw out the ideas and see what works. Because you're right,
Yeah.
that first year is very hard, but you've already surpassed the biggest hurdle, which is getting that first client. So kudos to you on that.
Thank
And I
you.
would say, since you were talking about community, so when I was first starting out, I feel like that's who I turned was the, hey, so and so, like, this is what I need to do. Can you help me do it? And I was somewhat surprised, and maybe I shouldn't have been, but I feel like the fintech and financial advisor community really turned out in a way that I didn't think was coming. So I just put that out there, and fingers crossed that works for you as well. But I'm glad that you've
Yeah.
already got number one.
Yeah. Yeah, it is exciting. So good. And I'm glad you've had like open arms and good reception. And, it's true. Once you find your own community that you can lean on, I've already leaned on so many for pricing conversations and how do I run this or run that? Or, like I said, stealing different ideas from different advisors. So I definitely agree. People there to support me in my business, for sure. I have already am feeling that love as well.
Good. So for anybody who wants to use you as an advisor, anything that they should know or any kind of criteria that they need to meet?
Yeah, I'm not big on like asset minimums, but obviously, I don't think that content creators who are doing this just as a side gig, as a side hustle to pay off debt or whatever, are quite ready, nor do they need the complexity of a financial planner yet. So, at least as of right now, what I'm thinking is if you are a full time content creator, and this is your full time gig, which likely means you're making at least six figures, in some form or capacity. I think that's when it can start to make sense to hire a financial planner. In addition to that, they likely potentially have a spouse, right, who's bringing in some income
Mhm.
that, has maybe been the more like consistent, steady income over the lifetime of that family. And so I'm thinking six-figure income content creator with a spouse that also has income that easily could get you to the ish thousand a year of income. I think that kind of is where it starts to make sense to hire a financial planner and start kind of evolving into that. So that's kind of like what I'm thinking at right now for my clients.
Anybody, if you're interested, feel free to reach out. And Abby, thank you for sharing your story and for being so vulnerable and honest with all of us. That's one of the most amazing things about you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.